Starseed Ascension welcomes guests from a variety of backgrounds to gain perspectives, experiences, and information in the paranormal, spiritual, and ET space. We are a community of spiritual explorers who seek to help raise consciousness. And now, here's your host of Starseed Ascension, Jamie Voss Love.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Starseed Ascension. I'm your host, Jamie Voss Love, and tonight we have another very special guest. Tonight's guest is an author, Emmy-nominated casting director, and award-winning filmmaker. And a little bit about Mr. Craig Campobasso is that fresh out of high school, he found himself working behind the scenes on Frank Herbert's Dune. And he was mentored by director David Lynch and producing team Dino and Raffaella de Laurentiis, and apprenticed on Steven Spielberg's amazing stories. So later, Craig became an Emmy-nominated casting director, and yet his passion is writing thought-provoking stories to raise consciousness while still entertaining in that Hollywood-style fashion. So Craig wrote, directed, and produced the award-winning Stranger at the Pentagon and has appeared on Gaia and Ancient Aliens. And he has wrote the autobiography of an ET saga, the UFO Hotspot Compendium, which is released by MUFON, and also the Amazon bestseller, The ET Species Almanac, which is soon to be a documentary, which we can't wait for. So please welcome Craig Campobasso.
Hey, thank you. And you said all those names like perfectly. Everyone gets all those Italian names mixed up. I always say to everybody, if you say it with an Italian flair, you'll remember, Campobasso, De Laurentiis.
Campobasso, I love it.
That's it. It's a little city outside of Rome, by the way, and it means lowlands, and they make olive oil there. I learned that from Phyllis Diller, who I cast in 2 movies. And she used to send me little gifts all the time in the mail. And one day I got this amazing, cute little bottle of olive oil. And she says, look where these virgins make their oil. And it said Campobasso, Italy. So I thought that was amazing. So cool. Yeah, just amazing.
So did you already know that then before you received that gift?
I didn't know that they made olive oil there, but I had met an actor along the way who was actually from there, right? And so she had told me that it means lowlands. I was there in '94 for opening of a movie that I cast, and I really wanted to get in a car. It's 3 hours outside of Rome and go there, but our time was so limited in Rome. I wanted to see the Vatican. I wanted to see all that artwork and the Sistine Chapel and the Colosseum. So I opted to do that and said, there'll be another day I'll get there to do that. So
definitely. There is time. There's time
for sure.
Well, Craig, just kind of reading over your bio, you make me feel like I have more to do here on Earth.
You do. Get busy.
And a lot. I know, right? High standards.
Get busy. Well, it's interesting. We could kind of begin with, this is the 4-part book series, The Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga. And the first one subtitled I Am Tehran. These books came about, I'm going to give you, since we have a short show, I'm going to give you like abbreviated versions.
Sure.
And when I was 26 years old, I started getting visited in my dreams every night by 3 universal master teachers. Wasn't into anything, right? And all of a sudden, these masters that this incredible love was vibrating off every night would visit me in my dreams, and I would wake up, I'd feel this love, I go back to sleep. Sometimes I'd forget about it, or, and then that happened for 2 months. Then the next 2 months was I would be in the dream with them, but then I would wake up in my astral body with them.
Wow.
So that was 2 months. And then the last 2 months, it was a period of 6 months, they would appear at the foot of my bed in their astral bodies. So I knew something was up, but it was just such an elating experience that it's like hard to describe the feeling, right? Because feeling really precipitated thought. It's like what the creation wanted to create. There was that feeling before there was the first thought, and then the first thought was thought that got thought out, and then thought manifested. Right? So we all have that power to create a thought, create something which is for the good, or out of our emotions and our anger, something could be bad. And then we start attracting, all of that stuff. So all of that was going through my mind way back when, and I think it was sort of catapulted by these beings. And then the next step was they fed me this light one night, and all of the cells in my body just woke up, and I started being connected to cosmic family. I was meditating every day. I would have beings come through. I called it my mind internet. I'd get a click at the back of my neck. I would see them vibrating there, just like I'm looking at you. Sometimes it would just be this beautiful feeling of love, like, welcome, you found us, right? Or they might say something. And so this waking process went on for 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, I had written a book about my experiences. And there were 2 female master teachers and 1 male. The male said to me, "What would you say if I told you you just wrote that book for yourself?" And I said, then I learned a lot about myself. He said, now it's actually time to sit down and write the books that you came here to write. Then he said, so sit down, get a pen, and write and write and write until you can write no more. Don't stop, don't edit. I didn't know what channeling was. I didn't know what automatic writing was. I was like, at this time, I'm like 28 years old. I'm new to all of this. And but I did have 3 portals in my little 1-bedroom apartment back then. And they would wake me up at 3 a.m., which they still do, by the way, to write. I always wake up. They wake me exactly at 3 a.m. They said all the brain cells are down, and it's easier for them to push the information through so that it's clear. So what they had done in those first 2 years was really clearing my vessel so that I could start receiving this information. And these amazing books came about. There's 4, there'll be 7 in total. I've written 2 more that are not published yet. And so that's how it began. And then my agent at the time became a sort of sower between Red Will Wiser and MUFON Books, right? Because he was totally into UFOs. And so he married the companies, and then he came to me one day to say, I have an idea for a book. I already have, and you're the man to write it, right? The extraterrestrial species, almanac, the ultimate guys, the grays, reptilians, hybrids, and Nordics. Now, he knew that for 2 reasons, because he knows that I've been studying contactee cases since I was 26. And they're like, I've studied over 65 of them. And these are face-to-face contact with these beings who told the contactees not only where they were from, what their society was like, what every little thing about it. So I received permission from either the contactees or their publishers to reprint the information I felt was really interesting. So in the back of the book, it says further reading, though that is really the bibliography. So if people want to learn more about this race called the Clermers, right? Sure. They could go, and I will tell you that book is out of print, but I'll tell you where you can buy a PDF, right? So
nice.
So, and
how many interviews would have been? I mean, because there are quite a few species.
Oh, well, when I originally did it, I had over 120, and I had to bring the book under 300 pages, and I was trying to decipher which ones to put in, and I really was an admirer of Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian Minister of Defense, who really spoke out about extraterrestrials visiting our planet and trying to convince people that they are here and living amongst us, right? And in one of his last interviews, he said that he knew of 82 races. And I thought, if I can honor him and squeeze in 82 races under 300 pages, I'll be very happy. And I was able to do that. So that's why 82 races.
Wow. And did you use your knowledge of your experience with the visitations that you've had since 26? Are they incorporated into?
They definitely are. Some of the beings, the Maramayams were some of the beings that came and woke me up. They're in there. They're a very, oh my God, they're just so advanced. I mean, when you feel unconditional love, but it goes beyond unconditional love, it's a melting, right? It's like a melting of just, wow, that's what these beings are like. And how intelligent they are, and how they wake people up. And by the way, I'm not the only one. There's another casting director who is very famous, and she was being visited by them as well, because when she saw the photos of them, I mean, not actual photos, but the artist rendering, she just totally was just mesmerized. But they didn't go deep with her like they went with me. They just came to wake her up and then let her start to find things on her own. Me, they had a specific purpose for writing, right?
Sure.
So a lot of my stuff was geared towards duality and towards quickening our duality on Earth by working through our emotions so that our heart and mind work together and our egos are no more. We still have an ego, but now we understand everything. So, these are just dualistic tools for us to learn from. And so now we go for, service to all humanity, not just on this planet, but everywhere else. And then instead of just service to self, I want, right? So.
Sure. I love it. And Craig, I mean, you mentioned, another casting director, and I know that there are other folks, in film for sure that may have had those experiences. So you have woven these two worlds together so beautifully. Do you feel in a way as a bridge between the two, or how is it, having both ends?
Definitely a bridge. I mean, many famous actors, working actors, people who are famous in other areas have actually called me and told me their extraterrestrial stories. Most of them were in a face-to-face kind of thing. One was not so good, but this actress ended up winning. And another one who has come out publicly. I won't say his name here, but interestingly enough, his mother just contacted me and said, "Oh, you have to call my son because he blah blah blah." I said, I've already had like a 2-hour Zoom with your son." She goes, "Oh my God, I'm so happy."
Peter.
So, but he can call them in. He knows when they're there. He goes outside. He can film them in the skies, and he's been taken up and shown his hybrid children, which many people have seen their hybrid children. Now, you don't get to see them a whole lot, and there's a reason for that, and that's called attachment. There was one woman many years ago that I knew. She was married. She was probably in her 40s. Her children were in their probably late teens, early 20s. And she was fully awake, and she was seeing her children back home that she left because she was a starseed, right? And she was crying and crying, and she says, "Craig, I'm going to kill myself. I have to go back home. I have to be with him. I have to be with him." And I told her, I had to talk her off the ledge. I said, if you were to do that, you do sign a contract to come here and raise consciousness. So if you were to do that, you're cutting that contract, and they're going to just put you right back in a reincarnation cycle. Right. So if you're going to be here longer, right? So because I do find most starseeds find it very hard to be here. It was really difficult once I came out, and I was talking about it and all of that. And I know some people went, a little too far, changing their name to something in the stars and, doing all kinds of stuff. And that's where people start making fun of it, right? And so I always wanted to bring a reality to it so that people could understand it and be grounded in it, so that they understand exactly what a starseed is. I mean, the starseed kids that are coming in now, I've met kids from the age of 6 on up, and these kids are brilliant. I met one boy. He's about 19 now. He was 14 when I met him. He spoke 5 star languages.
Wow.
Just knew how to speak them. And I would get EVPs from beings not from here speaking in another language, like grade A EVPs. And I remember giving it to him, and he says, he goes, that one, that's Pleiadian, and they're saying they opened a base around the corner from you. And I said, you're absolutely right, because when I sit on my couch and I look out the window, I see the ships come in and they move around, and I can see them, right, doing that constantly. And they're there and they're stationary. So, but it was really interesting.
To translate it.
Yeah, I mean, they were like inventors. Him and his brother were inventors. They were like showing me at their house all this stuff, like, we're inventing this. This is going to do this for humanity. We're inventing this. And I know that when they come of true age, they are going to definitely reshape planet Earth with their inventions.
I love it. That makes me happy, like having conscious parents and the support to, be able to come out with that, right?
Because it's good because, you have the initial starseed waking up, and then you have those starseeds having children, bringing them up in the consciousness. And then as each generation goes, they more of that soul is able to come in at an earlier age, so it doesn't, because otherwise, if it wasn't, it would short circuit the child. Right. If they were to come in more full with just somebody who wasn't fully conscious. So
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I mean, there's so many amazing, beautiful things out there. That's what I always want people to focus on. Don't focus on all the crazy stuff going on around the world. You can't do anything about it, but you can brighten your soul to add to the rest of the light, to help the rest of that
100%.
even out. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a beautiful quote in the E.T. Almanac, which is quoted, but it says, "For those who believe, no explanation is necessary, but for those who do not, no explanation will suffice." Which I love.
That's true.
Right.
It's
Well, what you
absolutely,
just said about radiating your light, right? Not necessarily
right.
to convince somebody of another truth, but to share your own and do that.
Just
confidently.
share your own. Yeah. I mean, I'm not here shoving it down anybody's throat. I'm just here to share. Just here to share my story. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. I remember Dr. Frank Stranges, who, wrote Stranger at the Pentagon, that I did the short film for. He always said, when he would talk about the Valiant Thor story, because he was talking about it in the early 60s, all the way up until he passed away in 2008. And he was very close with him and his vice commanders and other people on the ship, right? So, I mean, he would just tell people, if it doesn't sit well with you, just put it away in a box and come back to it in a year and see how you feel.
I love that.
And I thought that was a great way of putting it, right? Because nobody's here to debate their reality. We all have our own reality, right?
Now, did you ever experience any kind of challenges in your belief systems and experiences in the industry?
Not in the industry. I kind of thought that I would, not that I know of. I'll say that. Not that I know of. But I mean, I'm sure people talked in the early days, but now all those people they're like, we used to hear you talk and, we thought you were different. We'll just put it that way. But we didn't not believe you, but now we believe exactly what you believe. And, you helped to give us our spirituality. And I just thought, I didn't even know that. And people were coming to me and saying that, because it's, when you share those things. I used to have UFO parties, in the 80s. I would get a ufologist. They'd bring over VHS tapes of all the stuff around the world. I would fill my little 1-bedroom apartment with 100+ people. No lie. Movie stars, famous directors, everybody. They were so fascinated to hear this stuff. And then, when it would go down to a smaller thing, I would share with them what I was going through. And and then invite them to share if they wanted to as well. So those were some fun times. And I used to make vats of pasta sauce, and we just had spaghetti going all night.
Spaghetti and ET and UFO experience.
That's it. Yeah, and salad.
And salad. I love it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I would love to have been there. So, Craig, I definitely want to get into, a little bit more of your work. And definitely, you mentioned Stranger at the Pentagon. Well, you didn't mention that, but you mentioned
yes,
Dr. Strange's. And so I would love to ask you a little bit about that. But before we do, we're going to just go to a quick break, and then we'll be back to dive into it.
Beautiful.
This September 6th through the 13th, Join with like-minded souls in the experience of a lifetime on the Royal Caribbean Ovation of the Seas as we travel from Seattle to Alaska. Internationally renowned researchers, investigators, experiencers, authors, holistic healers, contactees, spiritual luminaries will sail on an extraordinary voyage of transformation. This cruise will explore UFOs, alien contact, cover-ups, ancient mysteries, the paranormal, holistic healing, and spirituality. Experience engaging lectures, one-on-one sessions, private, custom-tailored excursions, and a nightly UFO watch. The cruise is booking up fast. Go to contactatsea.com and be sure to mention the UNX Network when you book. That's contactatsea.com or phone 336-749-1219. That's 336-749-1219.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio.
Hello. Jamie Boss Love here. Welcome back to Starseed Ascension with tonight's guest, Craig Campobasso. Did I do it?
Okay. You did very well.
I was trying to add some more Italiano.
Italian, that's right.
Beautiful. Okay, so Craig, well, I should mention, sorry, this is going to be a little bit ADD because I want to circle back to this. I want to talk a little bit more about the book, also the film. But because we were talking about Stranger in the Pentagon, or about to, I want to go into that a little bit just because I don't think all of the listeners know about Valiant Thor, and just wanted to talk about your inspiration for writing, directing, producing that.
Sure. I'll give you the thumbnail review. I read the book in the 80s, and the photograph of Valiant Thor in the book, which is, that's him right there. Wow. Right? That's his Vice Commander Dawn. And that blonde woman there is his other vice commander, Zan's wife, whose name is Jill. And so this was taken in Howard Menger's backyard, who was a contactee with beings from all over our galaxy. And they decided to join it. This was in 1958. And this was during the time the Valiant Thor was living at the Pentagon. He was foretold to our government ahead of time that a universal emissary, a created being, which means, to me, a created being is an angelic. Dr. Frank always put him in the seraphim category. And that he was coming to groom Eisenhower on many things on Earth and about the universe, right? So he arrived on a Saturday, March 16th, 1957, and departed 3 years later. He came with a divine design to eliminate sickness, disease, prolong life, talk to them about free energy, atomics, all kinds of stuff. And during this 3-year period, and so I had met Dr. Frank either in 2001 or 2002, I can't remember, through my casting partner then, who is no longer with us, 2 of her friends who were friends with him. And so I was excited to meet Dr. Frank, just to, hear more about the story. And we had a very long lunch, me, him, and his secretary. And I thought, okay, well, that's it. That was fun. And then, we just ended up becoming friends, and we talked every day. We got together. He told me about all the fails of trying to get the movie made. And then somebody called him and wanted to get a movie made and wanted me to go to the meeting. And I went to the meeting, and I told him, I said, no, you're not getting involved with this person, and that's sort of how it all came about. And I just said, the book is not filled with the whole story. So if you want me to tell it, then I'm just going to have to sit down with you many times a week. And we did this over a couple of years, where he would tell me stories about being on the starships, about being on, and what they all did. I mean, he went into great detail. He would talk about a specific person, and just little memories would just come back to him. And, and he would tell me these things. But what I really didn't know is one of my mentors in writing was Valiant Thor's Vice Commander Teal. So they were already with me. So they were the ones who bridged this thing for me to come on board and to take it over and to write it. And Dr. Frank's health was not good at that time. And I knew that I could have him as long as I wanted, because they wanted the story out. So he would keep going and going and going and going. And then when it really was kind of done, he had a little accident and he left. And I just shelved it. I was, beside myself. So was his widow, all my friends, because all my friends loved him. And he visits them in spirit all the time. Some of them who aren't even into this are like, oh my God, I felt Dr. Frank around me this morning. I was like, well, he was just say hi. So
letting everyone know he's still around.
Exactly. So, around 2000, maybe 12 or early 13, I woke up and Teal said in my head, it's time to make a short film. I want you to do this, 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 and this, and we will take care of the rest. And it happened exactly as they said. I was doing it on a smaller scale. They wanted it done on a bigger scale, which it did. And, my friend Eileen Davidson, I asked her to play Dina Thor, and she did. So we ended up being on the Housewives of Beverly Hills at the premiere. So we started getting all this publicity and all this stuff all around the world. And then it just blew up. And now, there's like 20 some books on Amazon saying they're written by Valiant Thor, which of course they're not. But anyway,
you have the real story.
the real one. And, I do commune with them. If they want to talk to me, they're around me when I write. Dawn and Teal switch off a lot. So like Dawn is one of my main writing people. I always have somebody from Melchizedek as well.
Sure.
Samson is my guide from Melchizedek over the past couple of books. So, and they like when somebody can hear them, right? So, because, you have to get yourself to that point, for that kind of communication. So, and it's not like, they're always in your head and, that kind of thing. It's just when there's work to be done, then it's there. And the interesting thing is their telepathy is also sharing who they are, their feeling body. So you feel the beauty of who they are inside. And I tell you, I cry so many times. When Valiant Thor did it the first time, I sobbed for 15 minutes. I'm not kidding you. When a created that, and I've had several, you literally just sob and sob. And, and all the vice commanders, same thing. You sob, you just sob. But the creative beings takes you for an extended sob, right? But it's a beautiful sob, right? So,
yeah.
A lot of people, my agent, I mentioned Valiant Thor, and I was telling her, and she just started sobbing. And I said, "Why are you sobbing?" She goes, "Oh my God, I just feel how beautiful he is." And I'm like, wow, this is really good. This is an agent saying that, So that's
so
pretty
beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, Craig, because you keep intuitively answering my questions. I feel like I'm like letting you roll because I'll think of a question in my head, and that's the next thing that comes.
And then I answer it. Yeah, but people can watch the short film. The short film's on Amazon Prime, or it's on strangeratthepentagon.com. You can watch it there. I have all of Dr. Frank's out of print books. So if you purchase them there, it all goes towards making the feature film. So, which is cool. And I'm happy to sign the books. Dr. Frank's not here. I just sign him as the filmmaker. So that kind of thing.
Well, just a couple more questions about that. Craig, when you were talking about, your guides that you're working with different ones at different times. And you were talking about the feeling, right? That you can feel that energy and vibration. Is that how you recognize them, through their energy signature, or is it a visual as well? Or how would you describe like sort of your...
I get both. I get the feeling, and I get their face in my head. Right, that it's them.
And then, so it's a knowing it.
Right, that it's them. Valiant Thor is a little different, because I'll be sitting at this desk writing, and all of a sudden he's behind me, and the whole energy in my body just starts ringing and ringing and ringing with chills. Right, like when we were trying to get the short film out, we were having some problems and difficulties because it had to get to the Burbank Film Festival on time for this big premiere that we sold out all 275 seats. And, and he was behind me, and he said, "What do you need me to do?" And I said, "I need to get this thing taken care of and done so we can make the festival." And he was with me. I was actually going to Gaia to film George Nuri's Beyond Belief at that time, the first time I was on it. And he was with me that whole time there. And I was getting stuff back from the editor and the other producer, like, yes, it's all going. It's like all of a sudden everything's loosened up. You know, we were having some problems with some of the other people, you know, and anyway, you know, so it was great. And when I went outside the night that we won for the best sci-fi short, up in the sky, it was a clear sky. There were scattered clouds that you could see through, and all of the ships were in the clouds, and they had turned on an aqua light, because that's my favorite color. And they were moving around in the clouds. And me and my best friend, Cheryl, just stood there watching it. We filmed it. We took pictures. I was like, this is just amazing. You know, they were excited to be there. Just like, you know, when we just screened, did a sneak peek preview of the ET Species Almanac documentary, A Contact in the Desert. Like the first day I was there, I was sitting talking with a friend of mine, and then I went, oh, I saw them immediately. I said, oh, they're here. I said, Victor 1 is here with Valiant and everybody on the ship. I said, they're going to be over here the entire time, because they like to gauge the audience reaction and see everything. And my friend has this app on her phone where you can talk to ETs, angels, spirits, and if they want to take their picture on the app, they can. And I said, oh my God, I'm hearing open the app. And I said, if the vice commanders want to take a picture, I said, or if Valiant Thor, knowing that Valiant Thor would probably not take a picture. So remember, this was him in 58. Right. And he took a picture.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow.
Look at that.
Showed up.
Showed up. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was really so it was really great. You know, we had over 500 people in the audience, and you know, got a standing ovation, and people were coming up to me, you know, just weeping, because they were just truly, you know, it helps to connect everything, because, you know, the documentary is an extension of the book, and it really gives everybody some answers that they may be looking for, or it will help guide them in the direction on where to get them.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, we have real live contactees, some who have full-blown pictures of the beings that we show. Hybrids, we have hybrids in there. I mean, some of just the most amazing thing, you know, Paul Hynek, J. Allen Hynek's son, does the Men in Black, because, you know, the Men in Black were a big thing with Project Blue Book. A lot of people don't know this, but I found out in 2019, I never knew my biological father, but I found him and found his family living around the corner from me, by the way. So I'm very close with them. But my biological father was in Project Blue Book. How's that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a connection.
That's a connection. Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And when he left the Air Force after many years, he went into the film business, same as me. So it's just in the DNA, right? So amazing.
Apparently so.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. And Craig, it's my understanding then that you are sort of making all of these come to life.
Yes, I mean, we did CGI. We have real photographs. We could take a photograph, and they have the technology to do this. We can take a photograph, make it into 3D, put a 3D background behind it, that it's on a ship, and then we can animate its features. So we have some of those as well. I worked with an artist over in England for, like over a year and a half, who also created and brought all of those incredible beings to life. And then, the animators went in and did their thing. And so it's a conglomeration of a whole lot of different things. So it keeps it very interesting, right? And there's always something to look at. Everyone who has seen it thus far says, I have to own a DVD. I have to watch this over and over and over again. And people who are not into it are so receptive to it, right? Because they were like, I never even knew. This is like amazing. So,
yeah, I've definitely recommended your book to quite a few folks. I've had personal experiences with Andromedans, and I always share with people, your book is the most accurate I have found description. And there are other ones, of course, as well, but that one's just probably the one I'm most closely connected to. But it's interesting. I think I reached out a couple of years ago to share this, but I had seen a UFO, I've seen them many times, just lights in the sky, orbs, if you will. But this one was very detailed, very close. And I was coming down a mountain in Idlewild. And so just long story short, I wasn't sure who the beings were, whereas other times I'm pretty connected, and it was sort of a mystery, but I had asked. And so I was guided the next day to go to the bookshop in off of Ventura in Studio City. Didn't know why, but you kind of just trust these things as you go along. Right. Yeah. And I went right to the aisle where your book was, which at the time I wasn't aware of it. And I kind of hit it, and it knocked down and went to page S for Sasani. I was like, is this my answer?
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's amazing.
It was a fun little way to find that.
Yeah. Well, Daryl Anka's in the documentary. He talks all about the Sasani and everything. I'm friends with him and his wife. And, I cast 2 films for Daryl that he directed, Bashar, First Contact. And we did a little sci-fi film called Alienated that's on Amazon as well.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. So his section is, it's everybody's just got there. It's just so fascinating. You're just riveted. And I've seen it a bunch of times and I'm still riveted. The distributor just keeps calling me, saying, man, it's like every time I watch it, it's like, there's like something new. And I thought I knew everything, and there's so much in there. And this is like so amazing. We can't wait to get it out. So I said, yeah, me too. So.
Heck yeah. And so, Craig, because I do have a question about the UFO hotspot compendium. What else should we know though about the ET Species Almanac? What are you called to share? Anything about in the film, when we can expect to check out the documentary?
I would probably say in the fall is my guess, is when I think it would be out. But people can follow me on social media, right? I do have an ET Almanac page on Facebook. You can follow me at Craig Campobasso on Instagram. But if you want to be a part of our email blast list, if you go to the websites that you guys have posted, like autobiography on anet.com, you can hit the subscribe button, and then you'll always get updates on everything that's going on, new books, when the documentary's coming out. We'll probably be releasing the trailer for the documentary within the next month. And all of that. So yeah, it's just it's a good like field guide, right? It's a good field guide to just look up and see. You know, a lot of people tell me that they just keep buying it as gifts for people, which, you know, is very, very sweet. I mean, Contact in the Desert, last year I brought one case of books and it was gone in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And so I brought two cases and those went like, you know, within the first 2 days. So
I am not surprised. I mean, this has everything you can think of. Even, you know, one that was new to me was the Eridanians from Eridanus. And, you know, and sometimes when those things come through, I don't know if it's out there or not. And so the fact that this has this has like even the new ones that are coming in.
Some of the new ones, and like, you know, that, yeah, exactly.
So you would consider it benevolent and malevolent. So any kind of experience.
It is. There are people who have had malevolent experiences. A lot of people, though, with grays in my talks with abductees, and a lot of them, by the way, and Yvonne Smith and Barbara Lamb, two wonderful ladies who have put many people under to recall their memories, is it was always frightening at first. Same with Whitley Strieber, right? And because you don't know what's going on. And then as time goes by, you realize that this is for the greater good of your soul, because you are gleaming some kind of heightened spirituality, right? And that kind of thing. I mean, there's an agent who just flat out told me, I wake up in the middle of the night and the gray is like right here on my face with its eyes looking at me. He goes, it freaks me out. He goes, so I never go to bed early. He says, I stay out till 1 or 2 in the morning so that I will go home and just crash and only wake up in the morning, because he goes, I'm like terrified, right? And I haven't spoken to him in many years, so I don't know where he is in his progression, but, you know, everything is a little different. You know, Calvin Parker said his was the most evilest woman ever, this extraterrestrial being, and he would never describe what she looked like. Ever would never, even his publisher. You know, I spoke to Calvin many times, and, you know, he's in the UFO hotspots as well. So it's, you know, everybody's just, their stories just differ, and they evolve over time, just like Travis Walton's has evolved over time. You know, and I worked very diligently with Jen Stein, who is the expert with Travis. You know, I know Travis as well, but Jen Stein, and, you know, helped me go through meticulously with all the latest updated information out there on the case. So all of that is up to date in the hotspots.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite hotspot, speaking of which?
Yes, I do. I have a couple. My favorite is, there it is, UFO hotspots.
For the people that are viewing.
I love the subtitle, all the places to visit before you die or are abducted. The publisher came up with that, and I said, that's brilliant. You have to use that. That is like brilliant. Yeah, exactly. Right there.
I love that artwork.
And they put Snake Girl from E.T. Almanac in the car, if you noticed. Right. I call her Snake Girl. She's benevolent, this Snake Girl. Anyway, my favorite is Giant Rock and the Integratron out in Landers, California by Palm Springs. And of course, my other is Sedona all over. I mean, I particularly love Bell Rock Vortex. I caught an orb, which is in the hotspots, that was traveling along the side of the road. It was like a probe about this big. And I put it in the hotspots. Bradshaw Ranch just outside of it. I mean, after my book came out, all of a sudden Skinwalker Ranch was there doing Beyond Skinwalker Ranch with 2 people that I know at the Bradshaw Ranch. That ranch is like beyond. It's beyond Skinwalker Ranch. It's like when you walk there, you're very in tune, Jamie. When you walk there, you will feel it like you are walking through rippling dimensions, and you can feel everything watching you. That's what it feels like, right? And
Wow.
dimensional pockets open up where creatures have walked out and they've seen them with the naked eye. There was a thing between a cat and a mini horse that walked in front of a car late one night. One of the Linda Bradshaw's son was coming home with one of his friends at like 2:30 in the morning. This creature walked in front of him. You have to drive down this wash. It's very spooky. That's all bushes along the side. You just feel like you could be attacked by anything at any moment, right? And this thing walks out, stops, looks at them, and then walks on. And then it also was spotted in Idaho that very same night. And, you know, I was talking to Ronnie LeBlanc, who's on Expedition Bigfoot, because we know that a lot of Bigfoots, you see these lights at night in the forest, and it is hypothesized that they are traveling from space to space. It could be across, you know, across somewhere across the US. It could be back and forth to a ship. It could be wherever. So we're thinking that these dimensional time pockets are just there and they're able to walk through them. But the interesting thing is with a camera, is when the son had the VHS camera, when you look through the viewfinder, they saw dinosaurs, right? And they also saw Big Girl, which is an albino female Bigfoot who visits the ranch, and Linda fed all the time. They saw Big Girl walking with a silver saucer above her, following her.
Dang. Well, I love stuff like that. I like the adrenaline rush. I love the enigmatic mystery about it, and just the vibration. So, Craig, we are up on time. Man, I could definitely ask a dozen more questions. I love all of your work. We have posted the links to your social media as well as your websites to find all of your work, and we look forward to the ET Species Almanac when it comes out later this fall. So thank you so much for joining us. The
documentary. This week. Yes, absolutely. And happy to come back on anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us into this week's journey of the unseen. Until next time, may you find peace in the mysteries of the universe.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.